Hello, hello, and welcome to She Talks Business. I am beyond thrilled today to be having a conversation with a longtime mentor, colleague, and friend of mine, Murray Smith. Murray, thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation with me.
My pleasure. I'm really looking forward to diving in. And boy, we sure have some history in this wild world, and especially in the marketing and the social media. And it's a joy to see your own evolution. So, yeah, thanks for the invitation and for having me.
Thank you, Murray. I was thinking today, I do believe that when I started my consulting, coaching, marketing career, you were the very first person that I ever invested in learning from.
Wow, I'm honored.
And I will tell you, I remember it was at an eWomen Network event. And I remember reaching out to you to say that I wanted to know if I could schedule time with you. And I remember you very, kind of in a very professional, kind way saying, I just want to make sure you're aware of what my fee is. And I was very aware because I had been on your website and I met with you. And you were so incredibly generous. You were generous with your time. You spent more time with me. You had one of your Facebook marketing programs back in the day when they were all on the DVDs and you had the big binder and you gave one to me and you followed up with me later. And I just think that that generous spirit is something that I have really respected and admired in you for the almost 20 years that I've known you now.
Wow. Oh, that really touches my heart. Thank you. Thank you for the
Yeah.
acknowledgement. I appreciate that.
So before we dive in, you've been in this space, I think it's 18 years you've been a Facebook marketing expert. And, my question for you is, over the last decade, the social media space has changed a lot. And there's lots of good stuff and there's lots of not so good stuff. I am really curious as to what you see as the bright spots, the opportunities that are in the world right now when it comes to social media, and maybe not even just social media, but even Facebook. I'd love to hear your perspective on, what are the bright spots and opportunities in social media today, current, and then what are they specifically that you see related to Meta or Facebook?
Yeah, interesting. I think one of the most fundamental, impactful paradigm shifts that has occurred across many of the social media platforms is this whole concept of what I personally call beyond followers. I recently led a program called the Beyond Followers Bootcamp. And what it is, pioneered by TikTok, and it's going, so the days of like following an account or a person or a page are slowly fading away because the algorithms are so brilliant at predicting what the users might like to see in their feed. And so one of the most important metrics to pay attention to, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, is this non-follower ratio. So of the people that are following you, how many saw your content versus how many did the algorithms go out and find you a whole new audience. And now, and I was listening to a Gary Vaynerchuk little clip the other day, excuse me, and he's saying that 50% of social media users aren't really choosing to follow anymore. So it's quite fascinating because the feeds now are just dominated by these algorithmically fed or trained content.
It's like the feed follows you. It's like the feed follows you.
The feed follows you. I like that. You're absolutely right. So what's happened is we had the friend graph, right? Facebook was really brilliant and somewhat pioneering in terms of the friend graph, that you befriend someone and then you got this mutual connection, so you're going to see their content. And then, of course, pages came along and groups and whatnot. And then what TikTok did is really shifted us to the interest graph. And that is what's prevalent now. Well, at some point where we're heading to is what I'm calling the intent graph, and possibly like the buyer intent graph, which is how ads work, because you're going to see an ad if you're in that target audience. But we're seeing the intent graph is also with the organic content too. So if we flip that around and put our marketing hats on, we're like, whoa, Gary Vee talks a lot about this too. It's like, there is no time in the history of marketing, online or social media, where we've had this opportunity to, in essence, test creative at scale without spending a dime. Obviously some money to produce the creative, and we might have a team and whatnot, but not any paid placement necessarily. So here you are, just seeing what is the algorithm going to pick up to potentially go, quote, viral with the non-followers, and then you're like, wow, we got a winner. Let's make that the ad.
Right.
Contrast that to like spending millions on a Super Bowl ad, and you're like, okay, is this thing going to fly or not?
Right.
And now we're living in such different times with the way that the feeds work.
Yeah, so like instead of trying to figure out what the ad is, figure out what content's working and then turn what's working into the ad.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of exciting, and even though like if we put our user hat on, it's frustrating as heck for a lot of users where the algorithms don't have it quite right, and they're seeing a lot of content that feels irrelevant, and they're not seeing as much from their friends. However, to their credit, Facebook just brought out the last month or two this dedicated friend feed, which was always there anyway. It was a bit buried underneath your like feeds, but now it's a tab on your phone and you can see, and it's quite well done. It's not just a pure chronological, and it's just another place to put that wee red notification bubble, and I'm like, oh, I'll check my friend feed today, so
Yeah.
sometimes they give with one hand and take away with the other, but at least it's something for us as users.
So, it's interesting, this whole interest feed. I know that sometimes I'll have clients say things to me like, well, I see your stuff all the time and it just makes me think that I need to be creating more content. But what they're not understanding is that they're seeing my stuff all the time because they're stopping on my stuff. They're consuming my content, so therefore the interest feed says, oh, you're interested in Lisa, I'm going to serve more of Lisa to you.
That's correct.
So how do you recommend everyday people become more interesting to the right people?
Yeah, brilliant question. And we were just talking offline a bit there about the prevalence of AI. And this is a beautiful use case of AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all the things, whatever your favorite chat assistant or AI assistant, is to really lean into that to help you to create compelling hooks. It's that first 3 seconds in a video or a reel. You have to really grab people's attention for them to stop versus just continue the scroll. Scroll stopping, thumb stopping content with a great hook, a great, some cover image and just the first few words, and to just make it more relevant, more timely, more on point, more savable. One of the key metrics in Instagram that Adam Mosseri, the head of Instagram, is always talking about is the ratio of sends, sends per reach. And what that is people privately sharing your content, right? They hit that little airplane icon. Now, I don't know about you, Lisa, but I watch myself do this on a regular basis where you see a piece of content. I don't know, like I have a friend that has 7 cats. Anytime I see a cat video that's super cute and super funny and, whatever, I'm going to hit that send button and send it to her. So, or it could be any kind of content. That's just a playful example. But yeah, to answer your question about everyday person, marketer, business, it's really about making sure that your content is just so powerful. I would rather see people post less content and have it be really savable, shareable, sendable, sparking the conversation, sparking this. Whoa, this I can consume because it just made a difference in my life or my business or my bank account. Versus it's just like mind numbing. Oh, okay, it's a meme. It's a a motivational quote. Okay, fine, but I'm not knocking that. That might have its place. But yeah, how can it be?
But that's lazy content to me. Yeah. Like there's lazy content, and I mean I have some lazy content because my team creates some content for me. I mean, there's content that I create in the sense that people are going to watch snippets of these your and I conversation. I'm creating this, but my team is going to take the transcript from this and they're going to pull some sound bites out and they're going to create content. Some of that content takes a little bit of effort, but some of it is lazy. Some of it is, like the quote content and some of the carousel stuff. It's not as intentional. So what I'm hearing you say is really like start thinking about quality over quantity. Think about how can you make something so good, so interesting that somebody wants to share it or they want to save it or they want to refer back to it. Like There's a woman on Instagram. I think her name is Keto Fit Janet. And she's in, I don't know, she's in her late 50s or early 60s, but she does workout videos, short, little, easy to do exercises. I have an entire album of saved videos from her because I'll be, sitting on the couch watching TV, having a glass of wine, going, oh, that looks like an exercise I could do. So I save it.
Right.
Her content is really good. So she's not just posting quotes. She's not just posting, recipes. She's doing a really good job. And so I think if we want people to be interested, we have to be interesting.
Yeah. And there's different categories of content. I talk about like educational, informative, like it's the how-tos or, the 5 things or whatever it might be. And then, you've got entertaining or inspirational. You can throw some of that in. And then the third bucket, if you will, would be more like promotional sales. You're making an offer. You can always put the CTAs, calls to actions, in the other posts. But for example, you're just talking about Keto Janet. One person that I follow on Instagram is her handle is Miss Caroline Flett. I think it's Flett, and she's an Instagram expert. a lot of people on Instagram are Instagram experts. She has over 1 million followers, and it's almost like every single reel. It is savable. She's giving you tips that, she wants you to sign up for her courses and hire her and whatever, but there's enough value that she is one of my like top of mind people when I'm thinking, people are like, wow, I really need to master Instagram. I'm like, go follow this lady. She really knows what she's doing. She puts a ton of value in the content that she produces.
Yeah. I think the thing that is difficult sometimes is, I call it fish and water syndrome. A lot of times as experts, we don't know what we know that is helpful or the most helpful or interesting to someone else. And so I think sometimes we think it's got to be this great big thing, and often it's the basic things. It's the simple things that people don't necessarily know. And so it's important that when we're creating content that it's valuable, but we're actually thinking about where our buyer is in the journey and what are the different steps that they need along the way to learn whatever it is that you're putting out there into the world.
That's true. Another great resource, other than using your favorite AI tools, would be answerthepublic.com.
Yes.
Neil Patel bought that one, and it's a very nominal annual fee. But what folks are going to get from that is like real-time questions that people are punching into the search engine, so you can get a sense of like, what are the big pain points? What are people going to Google and asking, like, what's on their mind right now in my niche? And then you can formulate some of your social media content and even your complete products around that, depending on your industry or your niche. So.
So you just spoke at Social Media Marketing World.
Yes.
And I know that you have been a fan favorite and have spoken there for many, many, many years. I am curious what your number one takeaway was this year.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I think this was my 12th or 13th year. I'm pretty sure. Little bragging right here is that I'm the only speaker that's been invited back to speak every year since inception in 2013, and I feel very blessed and honored. I never take it for granted, and I'm very grateful to Mike and his team for that invitation. And of course, I've stayed on point with my Facebook mastery. Nobody else seems to want to step up into that. So. But my biggest takeaway, gosh, it's, we were talking a little bit offline about this. It's just the absolute critical key importance of being in person, I call it in aura, but being in person, in that physical proximity with other human beings. It's deeply gratifying, fulfilling. Magic happens that could never happen through a Facebook group or a Zoom chat or whatever. So reinforcing existing relationships and then making new ones, bumping into somebody in the elevator and walking across the street to the conference center and I think to me, it's almost like it feels each year it's like a big family reunion, even though I want to say like 40 or 50% of people are brand new. They just feel like part of this one giant family. And Social Media Examiner does an exceptional job of putting on very, very memorable events because they really emphasize the the humanity, the connecting, the networking, the opportunities to lean into these magical conversations, like with meetups and table talks, and in between the sessions. So
Yeah, you're making me think of Mark Schaefer's book, and one of the things that he talks about in the book is word of mouth marketing,
yeah.
and how not enough of us are actually intentional about doing things that make an experience memorable enough to talk about. And so it sounds to me like what you're saying is that social media marketing world is memorable like that every year.
It truly is, yeah. And for many years since 2013, I would host a small group event and feed everybody a delicious brunch and give them, I called my Facebook business briefing. And then I don't know, maybe since COVID, social media marketing world 2020, we had one in 2020 just days before lockdown. Then I think 21 was skipped, and then we went back 22 onwards. But I hadn't hosted one of my post social media marketing world events for a little while, and but I did this year just a few weeks ago. We had 30 VIPs. I got a beautiful venue. It was a university club, 34th floor, overlooking all of San Diego, and oh my gosh, the feedback was so deeply gratifying. People saying it was the highlight of their whole trip. And new relationships formed, and just there's something happens when you get that more intimate group together after a couple thousand people, and just breaking bread with people, just having more intimate conversations. It was really very, very beautiful. I want to do more events like that myself.
I think the contrast from spending so much time online to spending time face to face, belly to belly, heart to heart with people, I think we crave it today. And so I think that, something that maybe people wouldn't have valued as much 20 years ago because they were so used to spending time together, in today's world, they value it more than ever, especially after COVID and people, being in situations where they were locked down or they didn't go to events for, there's some people that didn't travel for years during COVID.
That's right.
So I think it's hugely important. So, you have been in this space, like I said, for 18 years. And I've been in this space for a similar amount of time. And I have to tell you, I find that there are days where I have a love-hate experience with social media marketing. There are days where I love it and I'm energized and I'm excited by it. And then there are times where I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's time to just let somebody else do this work. Maybe it's not, maybe I'm not that good at it anymore. Like, you have these like conversations in your head. Yeah. And I know that one of the things that you have recently started to learn about in the last few years is human design. And I'm really curious if you could share with us a little bit about human design and how you're integrating human design into marketing and why you're so passionate about it.
Well, probably several years ago now, I just noticed that my level of satisfaction, like that deep, profound satisfaction of my career, was starting to kind of like dissipate. So I was like, I would love something more to add on. I wasn't about to like just pivot and hang up my crown and, and go, okay, I'm over it. I'm never talking about Facebook again. That's not on the cards. I was like, what more can I bring in to bring just more substance, more meaning, more depth? And then I magically stumbled across the human design system, which I was familiar with since the early 2000s. I had my very first reading like 2003 or something, and didn't make any sense. I guess I just wasn't ready yet. But in 2020, that's when it came bounding back into my life, and I just passionately threw myself into professional studies. And I'm in a 3.5 year long program right now that is, in essence, getting a PhD in human design. And so it's this beautiful fusion of astrology, the Chinese I Ching, and genetics, biology. It's not even like a typing system, but you could put it in that same category, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Enneagram, StrengthsFinder, all the things. So the more we know about our own selves, especially the generative folks of the world, so you're a generator or a manifesting generator, that's they're subtypes of each other. 66% of the world, we are sacral beings, or sacral, depending on how you want to pronounce that word. And so we're this generative life force. We're the worker bees. We're the buzz, and just making things happen, or responding to the world and getting the work done. And so in terms of like marketing, I know that you've got 2/3 of the world are these generative beings, and we respond best to yes, no questions. And so what I would shift is a very, very simple shift in my calls to actions. Instead of giving them a command, I'll ask a question. And also about 22% of the world are the projector types. They're called advisors in the business world. They're here to guide the energy of the generators of the world. And their strategy is to be invited, to wait to be invited, as opposed to the generators have got this response mechanism. So I'll just kind of weave that into my little marketing call to action. I'm just like, let's say I'm putting on an event or a webinar or training. You're invited. Would you like to join us? Would you like to join us, or would you like to sign up? And then also what I'll do is, because I know that about 47% of the world, their decision making, this inner authority we call it, we have this body wisdom way of making decisions. We were talking about it briefly offline a minute ago, of where the mind can talk you in and out of all kinds of things, and the mind will have you make decisions that are not necessarily in alignment with your direction, your life path, your life theme, your body wisdom of what's healthy for you even. So let's see, where was I going with that? The invitation, I've lost my train of thought, which sometimes happens.
It's okay.
It'll come back.
It sounds to me like understanding human design helps you to understand how to communicate better with people.
Yeah, thank you. I found my thought. So if you've got 47% of the world that actually are designed to make decisions over time, they wait out the emotional waves. They've just got this energetic frequency going through the body of the highs and the lows, just emotion, energy in motion. They should not be pressured into making fast decisions. And so it's quite interesting when I see, for example, we've both been to many, many conferences and seminars where you get that speaker on the stage is like, sign up now, run to the back of the room, hurry, hurry, hurry. The first 3 people just raise, like running and making those mass decisions are spontaneous decisions that we get very deeply conditioned. Oh my, FOMO, right? Oh, I better be one of the first 3 people. And then maybe you'll get buyer's remorse because you know what? Maybe you really needed time to sleep on it. And so I love doing that in my marketing, and I don't have attachments like, okay, come on. I still do the countdown timers and the cutoffs because it does work psychologically, but I'm not like pressure about it. I'll be like, if this is correct for you, is a term we use in human design a lot, is if it's correct for you, would you like to join us? If this feels true for you, here's where to sign up, or take your time, and get back to me next week, or whatever you want. And it's just really giving people permission to be themselves and be true to themselves whilst I'm doing the same.
So speaking of giving people permission to be themselves, how would you advise people who are approaching their marketing and maybe they're not feeling like they can be 100% themselves online? I mean, the online space today can be very polarizing. And I know that, there's certain things that I won't talk about online because I don't want to invite the trolls into a conversation. It's not because I'm not happy to have a conversation one-on-one with somebody. I just don't want that in my feed. So how do you recommend that people show up and be themselves and also protect their mental health to a certain degree from the online space?
Ooh, you're speaking the magic words now, because this is another aspect of my career with my Facebook marketing / social media thought leadership, starting to weave in the human design system. And then this other aspect is this mental wellness. So as of time of our conversation right here today, I'm going to be going next week to Los Angeles to speak at a wonderful, prestigious mental health conference. And I'm doing a keynote in the morning about social media's impact, psychological impact on our mental health. I'm getting quite a kick because I don't know why this makes me giggle, but if I look at the entire speaker lineup, like everybody's got letters after their name, the PhDs and the MDs and the LMFTs and mental health professionals, and I'm like, oh, Ed Murray's here talking to you about social media.
FBE, Facebook expert.
Yeah, and then later in the afternoon, I'm doing a breakout workshop on how the human design system can be used as a transformational tool for mental health professionals. So yeah, this mental health aspect is so important about being true to yourself. So, for example, maybe you've read the book Careless People, written by Sarah Wynne Williams, former senior executive. She was head of global public policy at Facebook for many, many years. She was with them from 2011 to 2017. And then Facebook actually got an emergency gag order to have her stop talking about this book. And of course, Streisand effect, it's going to make it a bestseller, which I think is quite funny. And then she was just testifying before Congress for the antitrust lawsuit that's finally come to bear. And so this is a very difficult conversation when you really get inside the inner workings of the more insidious and heinous aspects of what has happened and continues to happen at Facebook or Meta now. And so I don't talk about those really. I'm careful because I know Facebook's tracking everything. I'm not going to talk about a messenger. So I have a whole separate community built on Mighty Networks. I launched it a few years ago specifically to be able to talk more about human design but I also talk about about social media and AI and stuff. And it's not a super lively, active community yet. We've got a couple thousand people there. But just recently, some folks were talking in my main Social Scoop Facebook group about this book, Careless People.
Careless People? Is that what it's called?
Careless People, yeah. And it's got a shark on the cover. The Sarah, she starts out with this incredible story of a shark bite when she was 13, so there's double meaning with the shark on the front cover. Yeah, it's an astounding, eye-opening, jaw-dropping book. And I have been inside the belly of the beast. I've been to the Facebook offices in Ireland, in London, and in Palo Alto over the years. I've worked with them. I don't work so much with them these days, more now and then through agencies. But even having known a lot of the inner workings, there was times I listened to the audiobook which Sarah narrates. She's from New Zealand, wonderful accent. And beautifully written book. She's an amazing storyteller. And I found my jaw on the floor a few times going, oh. Anyway, so this mental health aspect, it was really interesting timing because now I'm just going deep down the rabbit hole. And you had mentioned a book called The Anxious Generation. And there's another one I'm thinking of, Alone Together, of where you got kids, or just out with your family for dinner and everybody's like glued to their phone and not even looking.
Have you read Stolen Focus?
No.
Johan Hari's book? Oh my God, it's so good.
Oh, that sounds great. Thanks for mentioning. Yeah, so I'm just deep down this new rabbit hole new to me because of this mental health aspect, and because of this my friend had invited me to speak at this conference last August. She booked me, and so it's I can feel myself being pulled in this direction. I just started rewatching the Social Dilemma documentary last night because Tristan Harris, I have great respect for him, and he started initially it was called Time Well Spent, but it's changed to the Center for Humane Technology. And this is the thing, that when we recognize as conscious, autonomous, sovereign beings that, like you just said, our focus is being stolen, that we're being hijacked, and our attention's being hijacked, our minds and our brains. It's like you have to have quite a bit of discipline to take back control.
I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline for an article yesterday that screen usage is being linked to Alzheimer's now too. And I can believe it because, I mean, if you want to waste an hour, just get on your phone and start scrolling.
Right.
And I think that we all have to be conscious of the fact that we need more focus time. We need more time to sit and think or to meditate. I just finished reading a book. I think it's called Chasing the Light. I don't remember the executive's name, but it was an executive who was diagnosed with 90 days to live, and he had cancer. And so it was his story about how to end life on your terms, basically. It was an inspirational story, a sad story, but one of the things that he talked about is, the need to meditate. And he always found meditation hard because he was this busy CEO and, all these distractions. And the one way that he was able to silence his mind and meditate is if he sat next to moving water.
Oh,
If he could
nice.
hear the water, like a waterfall, or, he could actually meditate, but without that noise to kind of help him anchor his thoughts, he couldn't quiet his mind. And so I just think that so many of us are like, my phone notification showed up the other day and it said that I spent 4.5 hours a day on my phone last week. And I'm like, oh my God, 4.5 hours? Like, what am I doing with my life? I
Would,
remember back in the day, you used to say Facebook marketing in 15 minutes a day. Do you still believe that?
I did say that. Well, I still believe it if you have someone else helping you manage your DMs, your group conversations if you have a group, and helping you with content creation. But 15 minutes a day as like just a touch point, quickly skim your personal DMs, quickly skim your notifications. And the notifications are probably the bane of my life. I can't
Yeah.
stand them because they're jumbled up order. They're not in chronological order. This is intentional. That's psychological stickiness.
Yeah.
And my brain is just, I've trained my brain to only look at the comments. It's nice. I like seeing reactions and this friend invited you here or somebody tagged you there, but I want to see the comments because that's this part of the,
Yeah.
relationship, human responding back to people. And there is if you switch your profile into professional mode, you're going to have this little thing called comments manager. Some people like to use it that way. Or in the Meta Business Suite, you can do it for your page in there.
So let's talk about trends. How are you advising your clients on what trends they should chase and what trends they should avoid? And how do you know when something is a real trend versus a make-believe trend? And are trends, do they even matter? Or should you just stick to the core of trying to create great organic content yourself?
Yeah, I want to separate out into like tactical trends. So a tactical would be trial reels, right? On Instagram, I'm hearing a lot of social media marketers saying, or creators, that the trial reels is a really, really great tool, tactical tool to use on Instagram. And all it is a little button, you switch over the toggle, and just to explain for your listeners that the reel will then go to an audience made up of nothing but non-followers.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in your grid, your followers don't see it. Then you give it 24 hours or so, see how it did in the main world at large. And if you like the response, then you can just flip a switch and go, yep, okay, let's show this to my followers now and put it on my grid. So that I would say, yeah, I'm going to recommend, that's a trend, a tactical trend that I would recommend experimenting with. What I like to get into is more strategic, and I know that's one of your favorite words too. It's like this strategic approach to a trend. So we started off talking about like the non-followers, this beyond followers, this interest graph / intent graph. So something Gary Vee just harps on and on about is to make your content so compelling that the algorithms are going to pick up, and potentially every piece of content could be your next viral hit. So that is a strategic trend that I feel like almost every marketer should be embracing and adopting right now, pretty much almost across all social platforms that you're active on, because that's where the algorithms are going.
Is the LinkedIn algorithm going that way as well?
I'm not so sure. I don't know that one for certain, but it could be.
I think it is, because I tend to see, if I engage with something, I see more of it. So I'm pretty sure it's being interest generated as well.
Yeah, and LinkedIn, they tend to be the bit of the dinosaur, but they're here for the long haul, and pretty much anything that the major other social networks are doing, they eventually copy. So.
So I'm curious as to your thoughts on the use of AI in social media. I had a situation, I wrote about this, where I saw someone I know in the comments section on Instagram profusely apologizing because their AI bot misfired on a bunch of comments. Then I saw someone else commented on something of mine on LinkedIn, and the comment just seemed odd. So I asked them if this was them or AI, and it was actually a comment generated by AI. And then I had another person comment on a post of mine that was related to an event of mine, basically implying that they had been at the event when they hadn't been. So I asked them if AI wrote this or if they did, and they deleted their comment. So in a world where, trust is already being diminished a little bit in the online space, how do you think people should and should not be using AI?
Oof. Well, for me personally, I'm going to come back to that sovereign, inner authority, integrity piece. How other people should do it is up to them. For me personally, I love having a content authenticity statement and policy, which I have on my website. And there is a boilerplate Creative Commons version that you can get from the marketingAIinstitute.com. I put it at the bottom of all my emails. And I will say, 90% of this email was created by me, hands on keyboard. I use ChatGPT for this section, or I'll say, I love saying 100%. 100% of this newsletter was created by me, fingers on the keyboards. No AI was used. You want to check out my content authenticity policy, here it is, link to it. That's more like newsletters and, blogs and whatever. But social media, you mentioned the word trust. I think there is a massive erosion of trust for people who are a little bit more awake, a little bit more aware, a little bit more like in tune with their gut when they're, I see it myself. Over the last couple of years, scroll. Whoa, that looks amazing. There was what was it? The solar eclipse summer of last year. And there was some beautiful images went by with the sun at Niagara Falls. I've never seen so many AI images. There was some it was like a double sun, and it was like, wait, that's not how the Niagara Falls look. This thing had 7,000 shares, and all these people are just piling on, and a lot of people don't seem to care the fact that it's actually AI created. They're oblivious to it, and so see, I don't know. I feel like we should definitely be putting some kind of label, marker, disclaimer. I do appreciate and respect that about Meta AI. If you create anything in Meta AI image-wise, they'll put the watermark on it. And then if you use any of their AI tools baked into the Facebook or Instagram, it will automatically put the label on saying there was AI was used for this. Just last night, somehow it popped on my Threads account that I saw. Well, you know how Threads now, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, they're shoving the Threads posts. They're trying to get our attention everywhere they can. I know. And it was the most hilarious thing. Somebody had made this video that was a baby and a dog having a podcast. They got the headphones and the microphone, and they're the mouth's moving, that they're chit-chatting, having baby talk and dog talk, and it was quite entertaining. So it's hello, that's obviously AI. So yeah, go for it if you're making fun and entertaining content. But if you're going to make content, written, audio, visual, video, any of that, comments like you're saying, I just feel like that should all be transparent with the disclaimers and the watermarks.
Yeah, I'm not against somebody taking their content and asking AI to write it better for them. If the crux of it is theirs and they're just, they're using it as an editor. But if AI is creating the whole thing for you, to me that feels like, the whole idea behind being a thought leader or an expert is you have thought leadership or expertise. So if I'm abdicating responsibility for my thought leadership to AI, then am I really a thought leader?
That's a great question. Yeah.
And if I care about my relationship with people, then do I really want AI to comment and be me? I mean, my team will post content for me on channels, but they never comment as me. And I'm very, very transparent about if you are talking to me, you are talking to me. If you're talking to me via email, via direct message, via comments, if I am engaging with you, you are engaging. It's me, 100% me.
I love that. And that builds trust, because I never want that sensation for people to go, wait, am I talking to Mari or what? You're reminding me of, gosh, it's a long time ago now. I want to say, I don't even remember. 2010 maybe. I was at a wonderful mastermind conference with tons and tons of leaders, and I had been engaging with this one guy. I have mad respect for him on Twitter, back and forth, chit chat for quite some time, and I couldn't wait to meet him. And I go and I'm at this event, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And I'm like, it's just lovely having the conversations on Twitter with you. And his face just kind of fell. This is back in the day when, when Twitter was much more engaging. And his face just kind of fell, and he looked at the floor, and he was like, oh, Mari, that's not me. I don't even know how to log into Twitter. I felt like somebody punched me in the stomach, because I'm like, I just totally believed it had to be him. Nobody has. And I was like, it really like opened my eyes to like, wow, I guess some leaders just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't believe in that. And I think that the people who will show up and be authentically themselves will end up winning in the long run.
I agree.
I remember I tweeted to Gary Vee years ago, and I said, do you still post your own comment or content? And I got an instant reply on Twitter with a picture of his face, and it's like 100%. And it's like the scowl. It's like, how dare you imply somebody else might have done this, right? Like, it was so funny. But I think that if you care about people, then you care about the conversations you're having with them. And I think I rationalize that it's different for me to have someone on my team post content for me that I have essentially created than it is for them to engage and respond. It's no different than them setting up my newsletter after I've written the newsletter. Like, they're using my content. But if you reply to that newsletter, you're talking to me. You're not talking to somebody else. And I think that's so important.
I love that. Yeah. I've been saying in a lot of my keynotes over the last couple of years that authenticity is making a comeback. And I say it that way because in the very early years of social media, everyone's, oh, be authentic. You have to be authentic. You have to be authentic. Okay, authentic. Let's share a picture of my breakfast. I don't care what you have for breakfast if that's your authenticity. And the word just got bandied about so much, it kind of lost its true meaning. But now I'm like, okay, you got this fake news and fake content, synthetic. They call it slop. AI slop. I mean, what's that doing to our brains? Brain rot. The Oxford Dictionary put this brain rot. It was the words of the year last year. And that's the effect of consuming too much online slop. It turns into brain rot. So I'm surprised that you mentioned the thing about the Alzheimer's. So when you can develop and cultivate and nurture those real human-to-human relationships and connections and bring back this true, authentic, meaningful connection side of the social media and the marketing and whatnot, you're absolutely going to be more of a winner, if you will, and stay the course and don't get so hyped up about AI and you're being left behind and you can't keep up, and that's just all nonsense.
Technology will never replace relationships, so use technology to help you with relationships, but don't use it to abdicate your responsibility for them.
Beautifully said.
Well, Mari, I have loved this conversation with you. Before we wrap up, where should our listeners go if they want to learn more from you?
Sure. Follow me on Facebook, Mari Smith, or Instagram, Mari_Smith, my website, marismith.com. And then I do have a community. A couple of years ago, I launched on Mighty Networks. I mentioned it earlier, and it's just marismithsuperstars.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mari. I really, really, really appreciate your time. I appreciate your perspective. And as always, I appreciate how generous you are with everything you know. I'm grateful to have you in my world.
Oh, the feeling's mutual. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Mari. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of She Talks Business. And we may have to have Mari back to unpack a little bit more on some of the stuff that we talked about. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.